Hello there. What's going on, everybody? We're going to talk today about Commander Sato. I'm continuing my breakdown for commanders in Star Wars Armada, and the next commander in line is Commander Sato. He is somebody that I've actually seen a couple of questions on recently, so it seemed just fitting that I cover him next. And we're going to just talk all about how he works, how you want to build with him, what ships work really well with him. And I think he's actually, and I'm also going to talk about which squadrons work well with him as well, because he is one of those commanders that, doesn't really have many ships that don't work with him. So he's more about, which ships work best with him. Whereas certain other commanders that we've talked about, like Admiral Akbar, for example, doesn't work at all with ships that don't have side arcs. And so, you don't want to use, flotillas with him. And Mon Mothma only works with people that have evades and things like that. And so, there's certain commanders that apply only to specific ships. But Sato can work with every type of ship. Every ship that can shoot. And since every ship does have at least one variant that can shoot, I'm looking at you, flotillas, he has an option to work with just about everybody. So what does he do? So he's a 32-point commander, so he's a little more on the expensive side, but he gives a pretty cool ability. While a friendly ship is attacking a ship at distance 1 of a friendly squadron, before rolling attack dice, the attacker may replace up to 2 dice in its attack pool with an equal number of dice from any color or colors. So basically, the way that this is going to work is you have to have squadrons near the enemy ship. He only works when attacking enemy ships. You have to have squadrons in place. So basically, to run Sato, not only do you have to spend 32 points, he's a little more expensive, but you also have to run squadrons with him. So you need squadrons that can, A, reliably stay near enemy ships, and B, you need, squadrons that can survive long enough to make it pay off. So you want squadrons that can survive, a good amount of time. So you don't necessarily just want to put like 2 Z95s. But what else does he do? Once you have them there, before you're attacking, you want basically you're going to have a dice pool. What I've seen some confusion on is how do you get that dice pool? Does he just change printed values on your cards? I kind of talked about this with some of you guys, but what's going to happen is the first step is you're going to look at your battery armament and determine what dice you're eligible to roll. Because let's say you only have blue dice in your battery armament, but they're at long range, you don't even have a dice pool to begin with because you can't make the shot. Okay, if you have 1 die in your armament coming out, like maybe you're a CR90 shooting out of your side arc, and if it's obstructed and you're not Jaina's Light, you don't even have the shot. So you have to have a dice pool to begin with before you start changing dice. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at what dice you have on the enemy ship. Gather all those dice. You can put those in your hand, right, or whatever, but in your hand. Now, before you roll them, that's your dice pool, okay? And that's when you change them, because it's before you're rolling your dice is when you're, and it says before rolling attack dice. Your dice pool is after you've determined what you can roll, and then you can modify. Then other things will let you change and add to or change dice in your dice pool. So Sato specifically is before you roll the dice. So you can't roll your dice first and say, oh, well, I want to change these. No, other upgrade cards will let you do that, not Sato. So what Sato does at that point is the most simplest way is he lets you swap 2 dice in your dice pool to any other colors. And typically people will choose black dice. Typically. Not always. Like maybe if you're going for a flotilla and you're trying to get the kill shot on there, you might want to throw in a blue dice or 2 blue dice, maybe a blue and a black, depending on how you want to do it. But it's important to know that I don't think anybody in the history of this game has ever actually swapped a die for, put in a red. Like I can't imagine somebody being like, oh, I've got all these black dice on you. Let me make 2 of them red. I don't think that's ever happened. And actually, let me know in the comments if you've ever seen somebody actually do that and had a good reason, because I don't see any good reasons to do that. I don't know. Maybe you put turbo laser reroute circuits on a ship that doesn't have red dice. I mean, I don't know. I could see that. That would be really maybe an MC30, the blue black, with turbo laser reroute circuit. I don't know. Anyway, let's get back to what we were talking about. So what are some good ways to run Sato? Because the main thing with Sato is he wants to turn red dice into black dice for you. 2 of them, not all of them, but only 2. But it's every time you attack. So ideally, it's nice to have ships that have at least 2 red dice, and at least 2 red dice in more than one arc, because ideally you want to be able to attack 2 times with every ship, rolling at least 2 dice. The more ships you have, the better. So small ships tend to work really well with Sato, but we're going to go over each and every different ship. I'm going to start with the MC-80 Home 1 style. This is probably one of the weakest ships for Sato because of a couple of things. For one, it's so expensive. Granted, it works fine as a flagship if you want to put him on there and keep him safe, but Sato is one of those things that gives, you know, a nice dice advantage to every shot, every ship-to-ship shot that you can make. So if you have a 114-point ship in your fleet, you're going to have much less ship-to-ship shots that you're able to make, considering that you also have to set aside a pretty good chunk of points for squadrons. So I definitely don't like any of the large ships for Sato, but they all can work. And, you know, this one can work. But if you're going to pick an MC-80, I'd take the Assault Cruiser over the Command version, because the Command version only has 1 red die in the front, and if you are able to get that double arc, you'll get more benefit out of that. However, that's not really the best option. Now, we're going to go ahead and look at some of the other large ships and see how they line up. The MC-80 Liberty style, those both kind of work, but I think I would go with the Star Cruiser out of those 2, primarily because it's cheaper and you still have, you really only need to maximize your red dice, and you at least have 2 red dice on the sides and in the front, so you can get that double arc as well. Also, an advantage that the Star Cruiser has is that you can give it gunnery team if you need to. So if you wanted to just attack twice out of the front, you can Sato on both of those. This actually makes it not that bad of a setup, because you could just be like, hey, you know what, boom, boom. Now the thing is, one of the things that I like to do when I'm running Sato is I like to be able to take advantage of the black dice that could be rolled. And neither of these MC-80s really let me do a whole lot of that. One thing you could do is, because you have ion cannons though, this could be one of those times where instead of rolling black dice, you throw in a blue, and you use that blue with leading shots to re-roll everything else. That's okay. That's an option. I don't think that's really the strength of Sato, because there's already turbo laser upgrades that can add a blue. So it's an option. It's not necessarily the best. I'm not sure about that. Well, let me put you back. Let's put you back. Okay, so let's look at the MC-75. That's another big one. This one is actually a little bit better. It's still expensive. But it's giving you a little more than you had before. I'm going to pull out the Ordnance Cruiser. I think that one's a little bit better, because while they both have red dice, it's only on the side. And they both they have the weapons team, so they can take gunnery team. The Ordnance Cruiser has 2 options for your ordnance upgrade. So now you can, let's pull the Ordnance Cruiser up here. So now we can take this Ordnance Cruiser, and we can say, well, we're going to be primarily attacking from the side, but if we get close enough, we can also attack from the front, and we can make that 5 black. That's really cool. So maybe instead of gunnery team, maybe we take ordnance experts. It's a really good option. A really good option for a ship like this. Overall, this is a ship that wants to get close, but even when far away, it can still roll its black dice. Again, it's still not the best thing for Sato, because it wants to get close. And Sato's kind of giving an advantage to ships to stay at a distance, and they can act almost like they're up close. So, you're not really gaining too much benefit, although it's still kind of nice to be able to roll a whole bunch of black dice. That's very, very cool. So I think in a case like this, you might want to say, all right, well, let's go ahead and, we can put some black crits, like assault concussion missiles on here. Very, very cool. Great stuff. I mean, at this point, we don't really need too much extra stuff, because we're not going to be able to run multiple crits with ordnance experts. So, hey, maybe we run assault concussions and advanced protons, and we go with gosh, what's the one we're looking at? Fire control team, right? 2 different crits. Maybe we're going to do something like that. That would be fun. And again, with Sato, you'd be able to trigger this at long range, but you're not going to have your rerolls. So, there's options here, but either way, here's a ship that wants to get up close, and it's not you're not getting too much more than you would have had anyway. But it works. It does work. I say the biggest detriment of this is just that it's a very expensive ship, and it's going to, really, considering that you have to put squadrons in, you're having a tough time of it. Next up, I'm going to talk about a ship that's maybe not giving you as much benefit, but it's cheap, so it still gives you some benefit. It's the GR-75. Now, we're not going to go with the medium transports. The medium transports has no dice. They're not using him at all. But the GR-75 Combat Retrofit is actually the surprise star of all of this. The GR-75 Combat Retrofit does have a blue die in the front and back. You also, I'm just saying, you could put disposable capacitors on here, trigger that blue die to be able to be used at long range. There it is. Now, all of a sudden, Sato can make it, oh, well, now instead of at long range, you can roll a black die. Oh, and you did concentrate fire. Well, now you can roll 2 black dice at long range from a GR-75. And by the way, if you do concentrate fire, you're picking something that's already in your attack pool, so most of the other ships can actually get a 3rd black die at long range. The GR-75 can potentially get a 2nd, and since they're a 1-command ship, it's pretty easy to know when you're going to have that and to be able to just queue up the concentrate fire at will. So, it can be a surprise hero. Nobody expects a GR-75 to be able to roll, hit crit at long range against another ship. And and that's not bad. And that's only 27 points. So you can fit a lot of these. Oh, well, you can only run 2 currently, right, with the current tournament rules, but it makes room for a lot of other ships as well. And if you need your fleet support and all that other stuff, you can have your bomber command. Maybe you're going to be running squadrons. You can have maybe a title on there to keep it safe, like Bright Hope, keep it safe. Put a support officer on here, like Torin Farr or something like that. You can still have those GR-75s in a support role, but in this case, they also can shoot. It's not bad. You're not getting the biggest bang for your buck, but your buck is cheap here. It makes room for lots of other bucks. So now, a lot deer have invaded Star Wars Armada. Okay. So next up, we're going to keep on moving, and I'm going to talk about one of the first ships you've ever seen, the CR-90. CR-90 is a pretty good option. Now, why is the CR-90 a good option here? Well, it's cheap, like we were talking about. I prefer the CR-90A over the B because the B has to get in closer, and we don't necessarily want that. CR-90A is good for a number of reasons. First off, they have red dice in every arc. That's great. You can get those shots, especially the front arc, where you have 2 red dice. Remember, 2 red dice is optimal. CR-90 doesn't have any black die stuff, so they can't really do that. You might want to even consider running enhanced armament on a CR-90. This way you have 2 red in the front, 2 red on the sides. And so you get that double arc, and their arcs are printed so that it's not that hard to get a double arc with the CR-90. It's pretty easy. That also prevents you from losing the option to take a shot at long range if it's obstructed. Now, this is all great stuff. You can get your black dice with Sato, but there's some titles in here that really, really work. First off, Jaina's Light. Jaina's Light is great because it doesn't let your stuff won't be obstructed. Very, very cool, because one of the biggest problems I run into when I play Sato is that fact that, yeah, I'm rolling black dice on you, but they're at long range. And long range, you're very, very likely to have obstructions, so you're losing a die right away. Or people have evades, and then they cancel the other one. So if I roll like 2 red dice on you, I would have had 2 red dice, or I would have had 2 black dice. One goes away from the obstruction, your evade cancels the other one, and I get no damage through. So for reasons like that, it's important to have lots of ships shooting, so that if you concentrate fire on one ship, they can only have so many evades they can spend. But the other thing too is that you're only going to get like maybe 1 die here, 1 die there. So Jaina's Light helps you make sure that you get both of your dice through at long range. And then you can also spend your concentrate fire to make it a 3rd, potentially. That one's nice. But in addition to Jaina's Light, I want to draw your attention to Dodonna's Pride. Dodonna's Pride is a rare case where it's actually can be really nice to just say, no, I don't want any black crits. I'm just going to run blue dice. And so you use the red. Now, Dodonna's Pride almost exclusively goes on a CR-90B because it's got all the blue dice. But in the CR90A with Sato, you can swap all of its red to blue and actually throw them at long range, which is really, really cool because now you can get this face-up damage at long range a little bit easier, and it doesn't even have to, that's really fun. It's really fun. I think it's pretty cool, although personally, I'm not sure, it's kind of like if you had assault protons and you just rolled a black crit. But since the CR90 doesn't have it, here's another option. Pretty fun. Again, this thing is only viable with Sato. So I wouldn't run Dodonna's Pride on a CR90A under any other commander. But yeah, you could try it with Sato. It's not a bad idea. All right, we're going to talk about one of my favorite Rebel ships that needs the most help right now, the Nebulon. Both versions of the Nebulon are viable, but I'm going to go with the cheaper one for right now, the Nebulon B. Support refit, but they both have their options. Now, first off, it's going to boil down to the titles. If you go with the more expensive version, the Escort, you're going to have a better squadron value, so you may want to run Yavaris. You may want to run squadron commands, because a lot of times on your first round of shooting, your squadrons aren't in position. Don't forget, your squadrons have to be in range 1, so it really works to your benefit to have ships that can activate squadrons. And that's one thing that, like, the CR90A isn't that great for. It actually makes, I should have said with the GR75, that makes it a little bit better too. Although, if I'm running the combat retrofit, I probably want to do concentrate fire on that one. But the Nebulon B is known to be a good carrier with the Yavaris title. So if you're running Yavaris, then go with the Escort Frigate. It's very good there. But if you're running the support refit, definitely consider Salvation. Definitely consider that. Amazing, amazing option, the Salvation, because now your crit icons count as 2 damage instead of 1. Coming out of your front hull zone, normally you might only get a red crit that's got 1 icon. But now if you roll a black, or again, you can, if you do concentrate fire, you can potentially get 3 black dice out of your front arc. You could be rolling 3 damage per die. So if you've done, I mean, it's pretty nuts. You have 3 red dice. So Sato's going to swap 2 of those to black, and you'll still have a red die. Then you have a concentrate fire, which maybe if you get perfect results and you need an accuracy, you add a red with the concentrate fire, but you're probably adding another black. You could potentially get hit crit, hit crit, hit crit, and crit, which would be 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. 11 damage out of a Nebulon B. And that's without, a spinal armament or something like that. And that's without any other upgrades. That's really, really nice. It's funny. Your chances of doing that are slim, but you have a better chance with the black dice. You definitely do. Sean used to try this against me quite a bit, and he always managed to roll blanks or just regular hits on the blacks. I mean, they have such a good chance of actually rolling. Especially when you're rolling like 3 black dice out of the front arc, you think you're going to get at least 1 crit. But, statistically, the odds are in your favor. So it's a very cool option. If you're not running Salvation, though, I would consider maybe Enhanced Armament, because then you'll be able to get to 2 shots. It is tricky to line up that front arc. That's really the biggest problem with running Nebulons, though, is it's hard to line up that front arc. So if you're running Enhanced Armament, then you at least have 2 potentially black dice out of the side at long range, which makes it good. Minimizes your losses at that point. And then if you do line up the front shot, even better. But so you could make the argument, no, just learn to fly them really, really well. Learn to predict where your enemies are going to be, and then put spinal armament on there, and then just shoot front. Or even slaved turrets, possibly. I just have so many problems with slaved turrets. I don't know if it's worth it, especially with Sato, when you could get a whole nother black die at long range. All right. Let's talk about a real good ship. The Assault Frigate Mark II. We've got the A and the B. I'm going to go with the B. I think the B is clearly the best option here. Although the A has its benefits. So, first off, the A has a blue die in its front arc, which you can't use it at long range, of course, but since it's medium, you could give it disposable capacitors. You could do that if you want to get 1 more die in the front arc. However, I think the B is the better option for a couple of reasons. For one, you still have your 2 red in the front arc, so you're still just as good at long range. Your side arc is great, so you still have double arcs. that you can totally line up, and that's great. But a better thing about the B is that you have a higher squadron value. And if there's ever a ship that if you need one ship in your fleet to maybe go first and do the squadron command, here's a really good ship to be able to do that. So this one makes a real good carrier if you're trying to go first. Just because of the squadron value, because of everything else, it's just good to get the squadrons in. And you don't even have to go first with this one. As a matter of fact, you could go last and put Paragon on here. If you're able to get that double arc, this could combo really, really well with Sato. Because now you can get 4 black dice at long range. Really, really cool. So Paragon's an option. But also, you don't even have to do that. The other thing also is that we have the weapons team here, so we can put Ordnance Experts on there. Or if we just want to fly sideways, we can put Gunnery team on there. I think Ordnance Experts, it's tough because you don't have black crits on the Assault Frigate. So while Ordnance Experts is totally a thing, if Sato is on a small ship or maybe not that well defended, if you have Sato on the Assault Frigate, Ordnance Experts is fine, because if you lose the ship, then you lost Sato anyway, and you lost the ship. What you don't want to have happen is you don't want to lose Sato, and now you have an upgrade that you can't use. So you could make an argument for gunnery teams as well. So I would say if Sato is on a different ship, gunnery team might be better. Allows you to fly the Assault Frigate, a different, maybe around in circles and do donuts around the battlefield. But if Sato's on your ship, Ordnance Experts is a safe bet. Gives you some rerolls. Assuming you don't have anything else mitigating dice. Like if you've got, Intensify Firepower somewhere in the fleet, then maybe you don't necessarily need Ordnance Experts as much. Oops, I didn't need to drop him. I'm keeping everything here in order. This order is just a rough kind of... It's not necessarily a strict best to worst. It's kind of a rough best to worst, but because there's definitely wiggle room in here. I'm going to talk about the next one is the Hammerheads. The Hammerheads both can work in different ways. You can make a real good argument for the Hammerhead Torpedo Corvette because it has 2 things that are important. It's got weapons team, so you can do gunnery teams, or you can do your Ordnance Expert, and you've got your black die, so you can add like your Assault Concussions. But the problem is you've only got 1 red die. So you have to get at least in medium range to be able to really roll all the extra black dice. So it's a little risky, especially on a ship that can be killed pretty easily, especially at medium range. So because of that, I lean more towards the Hammerhead Scout Corvette because, I don't necessarily need to have... It's still cheap, but I don't necessarily need to have every ship have black die crits. It depends on what you're going for. Look, the other one's perfectly viable. But here I really like Gunnery Team and Spinal, because you've got a pretty good front arc here, and you can now roll 3 red out of your front arc, and potentially, honestly, if we want to be really nasty, just disposable capacitors on there. Now we've got 4 dice in the front arc against 2 different ships for 60 points total. It's not bad. We're gonna have 2 black, a red, and a blue, and then concentrate fire. Now you get your choice of any color die you want to add after you roll your initial roll. That's awesome. So if you need that accuracy, you can do that. And you get to do that against 2 ships. Well, of course, you only use the concentrate fire on 1. But I just like that. This way you can keep these guys safe. You can keep them shooting longer. Keep them at long range. Slow them down to speed 1. And just have them sit there and run multiples of these. You can just fit a lot more ships in one list. And I like that. But both are viable. You just have to upgrade them both. Or, if you can go a little cheaper, you don't have to run disposable capacitors. And honestly, you don't have to run spinal armament either. You can just run this with Gunnery Team. Now you're down to only 48 points. You still have your 2 red dice at long range against 2 different ships. So that's still 4 with the concentrate fire. That's still 5 black dice at long range total, which is pretty good value for 48 points. That's just great. And your chances of you rolling blanks on the black die are kind of low. So you have a pretty good chance of getting a lot of damage out there. Again, evades are going to be your killer here, but what can you do? It's always the weakness of Sato, is those, going up against another ship with a lot of evades. All right, we're getting into the really good. Now, really good for Sato. And it's weird to see a Pelta in the really good, but we're going to go with the Pelta. And we're not going with the command ship, even though I get it, the command ship is cool, but the winner's definitely the assault ship. definitely the assault ship for a number of reasons. First off, the Pelta, again, if Sato wants to be on, lists with a lot of ships, that means he probably wants a lot of small ships. Pelta's is a great flagship if you're running multiple small ships. Pelta is one of the best flagships when you're not running when you're running only small ships. Pelta is one of the best flagships you can have, and the fact that Sato works so well with it is just icing on the cake. But yes, it has the red dice in the front. It's only got one on the sides, but it's got black dice, which means it also has, it also has these. So at least out of your front arc, you're getting, you can add your assault concussions in. This gives you the option to have intensify firepower or something else. You don't even need intensify firepower, but since it's always nice to have some dice mitigation, having the Pelta also gives you other things as well, which I love. And again, this makes a great command ship. I don't know if you really need Phoenix Home on something like this, but you can do that as well. I just really like the Pelta because it's got the 2 red up in the front. You can add the torpedo upgrade, or the ordnance upgrade, and it's already a slow ship, so it's gonna be shooting at long range most of the time anyway, and it makes for a great place to actually put Sato, because if you can see, like in this list, I've got Sato sitting up here currently on the MC-80. I don't really want to run an MC-80. I want a cheaper flagship. This is a great one, which leads me to my favorite, and also another good flagship option, the MC-30. MC-30 is just really, really good because it's maybe one of the best ships in the game. Maybe the best ship in the game. Oh, it's not maybe one of the best ships in the game. It's easily one of the best ships in the game. And both of these are good options, but I like the MC-30 better in this case, just because we can get those black dice going at longer range. This is a ship that still wants to get kind of up close, so I'm not sure if I would put Sato on one of these. I would probably run this with my Sato list, but I would probably keep Sato on the Pelta because the MC-30s want to get up close because they have more black dice. But here, the MC-30 Scout Frigate I like a little better. It's got red dice all around, which is great. And if I give it Spinal Armament, now it has the 2 red dice all around, which does a number of things. For one, that allows me the most efficiency with Sato. That also allows me, because I've got at least 2 in every arc, it also allows me protection against an obstructed shot. I can still, because this adds to the armament, not to the dice pool. So even if I don't have the first die, I have 2 in the front and back now, which is great. And then this ship has everything else that I need to make Sato work perfectly. It's got Ordnance, so I can add, let's go with Assault Concussions, since I'm just clicking those today. All right, so now I can get black dice, no problem. And it's got the Weapons Team, which is really the sweet spot. It's got the 2 red dice everywhere, it's got the Weapons Team, and it's got the Ordnance. So I can put Ordnance Experts on there. Now, it's very easy for me to have double arc at long range with rerolls and black die crits. And it's a survivable ship. So all we gotta do is add a title on there if we want. And honestly, all of these titles are going to be good, but like Admonition is the one people mostly take. But if you're going to be taking a lot of if you're going to be at long range an awful lot, Foresight's going to work pretty darn good. So you put Admonition on the ship, like if you're running 2 MC-30s, put Admonition on the one that's going to go in closer, or going to go in first, and Foresight on the one that's behind it, since Foresight will probably be defending at long range, and Admonition will probably be defending at medium or close range first. So that's how I would run it. But yes, that's definitely that's kind of my order on what I think works best with Sato. Did I miss anything? Did I miss any ships? I don't think so. I think we talked about all the different ship types. Yeah, so that's the different ships for running with Sato. Squadrons, ideally you want stuff that can stay alive. The cheapest way to do that is, the cheapest way to get a bunch of squadrons in, there's a bunch of Z95s, but they're going to die really, really quick, so I don't suggest those. Cheapest way I have run Sato is Tycho and Shara Bay. Tycho, Selchu, and Shara Bay. Tycho is probably the best overall. Primarily aces because they have braces and aces with braces. And they have the scatter. So Tycho can get to where he needs to be. They need to be mobile. Right? Speed 5, and he's mobile. Tycho's perfect for Sato. He can move or whatever, so he can't be tied down. He can always get to where he needs to go, and he can survive. And he's got counter too, so if they try taking him out, he's going to shoot back. To a lesser extent, it's Sharabe, who she's got the speed, she's got the survivability, and she's got a nastier counter, so she's more punishing to people who try to take her out. But a lucky TIE fighter might be able to get into engagement range with her and tie her down right away. So she doesn't have the flexibility to just move away from engagements quite so easily. Because when I see somebody playing Sharabe, I try to lock her down and I don't shoot. I just opt not to shoot, or I shoot somebody else because her counter is more damaging, more deadly than her actual attack. So you're just better off letting her try to shoot you and hope she doesn't kill you, and then she's locked down for a whole nother round. So that's how you deal with Sharabe, whereas Tycho, you just don't have that option. Tycho, you have to just overwhelm him and hope, like he may be one of the best. If you need only one squadron to like tie down other squadrons, if you could pick only one squadron, Tycho would be a darn good choice. But if you're running these two, then A-Wings in general are pretty good because of their mobility, but Aces are pretty good too. You want somebody who can go 3 or 4. E-Wings, kind of okay. They're a little on the expensive side. Honestly, I think there's a good argument for just a bunch of X-Wings. Run a couple of X-Wings and put Jan Ors in there. Is another really good option because Jan Ors can share her brace with those X-Wings. They have to attack the X-Wings. Jan Ors allows the X-Wings to move and get into position. They're not speed 4, they're speed 3, but if you deploy them pretty far forward and start moving them up into position, the speed 3 won't be that much of an issue. And Jan, Jan's just awesome. Jan's one of the best pilots in the game. She's like probably the best support squadron in the game. Because even when she's by herself, she rolls a black die against ships, which is pretty good. Pretty good. But yeah, the X-Wings, they have escorts, so they're going to have to attack the X-Wings first. Jan will allow those X-Wings to brace, because they can spend her thing, even if they have accuracy. X-Wings have a lot of hull to eat through, so they're going to stay alive for a long time. And by the way, their attacks against ships aren't too shabby either with the red die and bomber. So, that's another option. Those are two things that I will sometimes throw a couple of Z95s in there also, as long as they're not my only option, because that's 105 points right there for all of that. But like take any two, like maybe 2 A-Wings and 2 Z95s, maybe 2 A-Wings Aces, 2 generic A-Wings, and 2 Z95s. I would generally, if you're not running Aces, run a minimum of 6 squadrons if you can, to give you that flexibility. Any less than that, and you run the risk of your entire strategy falling apart on like turn 2, and you don't want to do that. So you have a plan, have survivability in mind, and the more squadrons you can fit, the better. Plus, they're cool in general. They can, you can run bombers, run bomber command center, run maybe different squadron strategies too. Like, run all of this if you can. You've got your Aces to, get in there and guarantee Sato. You got your X-Wings and Jan going to a different ship to do a bombing run over there, scare the heck out of them. Maybe throw a B-Wing or 2 in there. And if you've got your GR75, put bomber command. Your opponent won't know where to start coordinating their attack because you're going to be coming at them from 5 different fronts. Be great. Be a lot of fun. Well, that's about it for today, guys. Let me know what you think. I will continue doing more Commander breakdowns, and I want to thank you guys so much for watching. A big thanks to all of my patrons on Patreon. You guys are awesome. You definitely help make all of this possible, so thank you so much for that. And I want to just thank you guys all so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out Crabbok.com and hop into Discord and say hi as well. And don't forget, I'm also on Twitter and Facebook as well as Crabbok, and so I'll typically chat on there sometimes as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.